Welcome to another Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday episode here on the Everything Sports with Aman and Evan YouTube channel. I'm your host, Aman Adkarni, and today I'm just going to talk about what moves or what trades we could potentially see this NFL offseason because I believe it's going to be a pretty big one from what the Chicago Bears might do with Justin Fields, obviously owning the number 1 and 9 pick, and then obviously if DaVante Adams stays with the Raiders or not. And a lot of interesting things could be happening this NFL offseason. But before we start, make sure to tune in on pretty much every platform because we're obviously on YouTube, TikTok, where we post sports content daily, and of course, Apple and Spotify. If you like longer form episodes, that is over there too. And we introduced F1 over the weekend, so if you want to hear my thoughts, and I also brought on a special guest, so tune in to Spotify and Apple because those episodes are being posted every Saturday exclusively on Spotify and Apple. So if you like the longer form episodes, because obviously they're not really on YouTube anymore, make sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple. All links in the description below. But we can start with the Bears, man, and they obviously own the number 1 pick thanks to the Carolina Panthers, because obviously they owned it the year before, and the Panthers gave up a boatload of assets from DJ Moore, quite a few picks, and for Bryce Young, who's had a down year, but that could be blamed on like an unstable organization. The Panthers do have a great defense, so if they sign like maybe Stephon Diggs or Mike Evans, and they obviously want to just stay competing. The Panthers obviously play in a weak division, so that'll give them the chance. That'll give Bryce Young the opportunity to get like number 1 weapon next to him. And Miles Sanders is probably going to be let go. Had a really down year in his first season in Carolina, and so far it's not working at all for the Carolina Panthers. And that's why the Bears have the number 1, and I believe their own pick is number 9, if I'm not mistaken. And so a lot of people are speculating Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams. But even though he's a great quarterback, like great prospect and everything, sometimes the best quarterbacks don't pan out in the NFL. And I always believe that quarterbacks should take the route that Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes did. Lamar learned behind Joe Flacco for a certain amount of time. Patrick Mahomes has always credited his greatness to learning behind Alex Smith. So I always feel like you need to learn behind a veteran QB for a certain amount of time before you can actually play. And I'm not saying to take the route Jordan Love did, even though it's worked out really well for him to learn behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers for, I think, 3 years. And now you saw that it paid off, won them a playoff game, nearly 2 playoff games, barely lost against the Niners. And so Packers obviously found their QB of the future. And so with Caleb Williams, I just think there's a lack of weapons on Chicago, period. Like, you have inconsistent running back, inconsistent running. You have DJ Moore, and who else? Like, give Justin Fields Marvin Harrison because he's had multiple like seasons where they're just teetering as an average team, and Marvin Harrison might get you in the wild card. And guess what? That's progress. And Justin Fields, elite running ability and passing, he might make decisions that are questionable here and there, but you have DJ Moore, Mooney, I believe, but you're giving Justin Fields a lack of weapons and you're blaming him for it not really working well. And if you do decide to move on, like the Raiders could be another option. And the Raiders also have a pretty good defense. And so they're one of those teams that might be a quarterback away from being one of those sleeper teams to maybe make it to the Super Bowl. They're believing in Antonio Pierce. That whole locker room believes in Antonio Pierce because a long portion of Max Crosby's career, they've been a quarterback away. DaVante Adams had somewhat of a down year. And so people are speculating that the Jets are a perfect fit. You have him, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, obviously Aaron Rodgers coming back. Like, even if he's 80% of himself before injury, I think pencil them in to win a playoff game or two, in my opinion, because if Aaron Rodgers played, who knows what would have happened? Because the Jets, again, there's so many teams in the league that are a quarterback away from competing and giving themselves a legit shot, and the Jets were one of those teams. And so we'll see how Aaron Rodgers pans out, but if the Jets can somehow pull off a trade for DaVante Adams, and I know DaVante Adams likes the Raiders, likes Antonio Pierce and all that, but I feel like it's fair to say with Rodgers returning in that Jets roster, if DaVante Adams wants to compete, you reunite with Aaron Rodgers. And obviously, their ending in Green Bay was sort of messy with Rodgers' extension, DaVante Adams being traded, and honestly, like the Packers are still like very well a great team now that you give Jordan Love a full offseason after a great year that he's had, statistically one of the best quarterbacks with like I think the last 10 games of the season or something, throwing only one interception before the Niners playoff game. Some insane stat like that, and obviously beating the Cowboys when no one thought they could. And I just think that DaVante Adams in his best interest. I know he joined the Raiders for Derek Carr, and honestly, that wasn't really working. They were still an average team, but now you have DaVante Adams, Jacoby Myers. I believe like Derek Carr is having a shaky time in New Orleans, and New Orleans, they are in a deep hole right now because they have one of the lowest salary caps in the league for being average to less than average. Like you signed Jamal Williams, supposed to be a great 1-2 punch with Kamara, and I believe he only managed to get one touchdown, and that's just insane considering the year he had when he was with the Lions before he signed with the Saints. And obviously, the Lions are a great team, Super Bowl contenders for sure next year, but I feel like the Saints mismanaged a lot of players, potentially Derek Carr as well. And we'll see what the Saints, they're only lucky because, like I said, they're in a weak division. And honestly, Tampa Bay might lose Mike Evans, but re-sign Baker Mayfield. And honestly, Tampa might be somewhat of an intriguing destination because obviously the Buccaneers won a playoff game. Honestly, could have upset the Lions to make it to the NFC Championship. And so if Mike Evans wants to run it back with the Buccaneers, I think he honestly should. And that's not to say they're making it to the Super Bowl because I still believe the Lions and obviously the Niners are a better team than that. I don't think anyone's arguing that. But there's just so many question marks this offseason, which makes it intriguing. I believe maybe the DaVante Adams one is tricky for sure, but the Raiders have an interesting move whether they want to somehow trade up to draft a quarterback. Because obviously, Phoenix is on the uptick. A lot of people are talking about Mike or JJ McCarthy. And I don't know if McCarthy will pan out. There's Penix, Bo Nix, Drake May. I don't know about Drake May too. And then obviously Caleb Williams. So there's a lot of intriguing quarterback prospects. And they might release Jimmy Garoppolo, sign Russell Wilson, or if you have the assets, trade for Justin Fields, because I think that definitely makes them a sleeper team, and maybe DaVante Adams would want to stay because I honestly think he requests a trade, and I think he should request a trade specifically to the New York Jets. The Jets have assets. They'd be Super Bowl contenders for sure with DaVante Adams, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and of course Breece Hall in that offense, and the Jets defense is simply elite. They were like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they signed Tom Brady. They've had a Super Bowl defense for a while. They're just a quarterback away. The Jets, a quarterback away. They have Aaron Rodgers, obviously, for I think probably two, maybe three more seasons. I don't think he's going to retire after next season. And so you have Rodgers for a short amount of time. If you can land DaVante Adams, I feel like that's the best thing for their team. That's the best thing for Garrett Wilson. And Just a lot of question mark for the Bears. I think they should draft Marvin Harrison personally with the number one overall pick. Obviously, receivers aren't normally drafted number one. Recently, it's been quarterbacks, cornerbacks, D linemen, and everything like that. But Caleb Williams is obviously there, and if he's not picked, then I think the Patriots are a mess too. Like I know they got Gerard Mayo, obviously moved on for Bill Belichick, but I think they need to play their cards right. They're obviously a rebuilding team, but you have a great defense. Again, your quarterback and a receiver or two away from competing again. Like the main thing with a lot of these teams that are sort of average to mid to struggling, they're all a quarterback away because, like I said, the Patriots, the Jets, the Raiders, even, they're a quarterback away from competing, in my opinion. And so, if they can get that right, get that sorted, I feel like there's no excuse not to at least be a playoff team for the first time in a while. And so that's my take on everything. I think it's going to be a huge NFL offseason for sure. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tune in to the shorts posted daily, sports content posted daily, or if you like the longer form episodes, you can find us every Saturday on Spotify and Apple. Thanks for watching.